1. This happened about 15 years ago when I was working in a call center for a very big cell phone company. Now, this very big cell phone company had call centers all over the US. I happened to be working in one in the Midwest, swing shift. It was near the end of my shift one night, so almost 1 a.m., and things were winding down. My last call beeped through, but the customer's account didn't automatically pop up on the computer screen. This meant one of two things. Either this wasn't an actual customer yet, or it was a customer with a lost or busted phone. I was hoping for the first, but sadly it was the second. So I gird my loins and steel myself and prepare to do what I can to help. I got her cell number so I could pull up her account and saw that she had wisely purchased the replacement insurance. I used my best compassionate customer service voice and assured her that she would get a replacement phone in 5 to 7 business days. She was not happy about this, and I get it. But there's nothing else I can do. The conversation went something like this: "I want my phone now." I understand and I empathize, but the replacement phones are sent through the mail. It takes 5 to 7 business days for it to arrive. I'm sorry. "No, you will give me my new phone now. I'll pick it up at this store." "Ma'am, you're in New York. It's 2 a.m. there. There isn't a store open. And even if there were, then wake someone up and make them open this store for me. I need this phone now." Now, this conversation went round and round in circles for about 5 minutes. It had been a long day. It was the end of my shift, and at this point my friends are waiting for me, so we can all go to IHOP and blow off some steam. It's Tulsa, Oklahoma. There wasn't anything else open at that time of night. I kept trying to explain to her the simple fact that I couldn't instantaneously get her the replacement phone, and she kept interrupting me, demanding she get it right now. And I was starting to get pissed, and I was about to sacrifice my job if I heard the word "now" one more time. "Why won't you give me my phone now?" And there it was. I took a deep breath, found my center. Then, with a firm but calm tone to my voice that belied the fury boiling inside of me, I said, "Ma'am, I sincerely apologize, but all of our transporters have been infected with a computer virus. You don't want me to beam you a mutated phone that would bite off your ear, then embed itself into your brain now, would you? No, you would not. So you'll just have to wait patiently while we use 21st century technology to get your replacement phone to you in 5 to 7 business days. I'm ending this call now. Thank you, and good night." I logged off, grabbed my coat, and stood up ready to finally leave. And there was my supervisor standing in her cubicle, giving me the stink eye. She gestured for me to come to her, and like a dog that knew it had done a bad thing, I slunk across the call center. "You understand that I'm going to have to write you up for that, right?" I nodded. She looked around, and no one but my friends were looking in our direction. Then she reached down, tapped a key on her keyboard, then she tapped a second one, then a third. Then she looked up at me, and a smile twitched on her lips. "We're just going to pretend this never happened, okay?" "Ma'am?" "Yeah, you lasted longer than I would have, and I have to admit, that was a pretty creative comeback. But never ever do that again." "Yes, ma'am, no problem." That was not the first time, nor would it be the last time that my smart mouth overruled my idiot brain when dealing with a Karen. I'm honestly surprised I've never been fired for it. I'm retired now, so I beat the odds. I should have used my luck on the lottery instead. 2. This story takes place in late fall 1976. I was 11 years old and never missed a bus to school. This day, missed the bus, and my dad said he was too busy to drive me the 20 miles to school. I stayed home, worked on my schoolwork, and did some chores around our farm. This year we had a very wet spring, so crops went in late. So my dad is out in the field harvesting field corn. It was getting close to noon, so I go in the house and start lunch, knowing my dad will be coming in for lunch any time. By 12:30 he isn't in for lunch. This man had a stomach you could set a clock by. I head out towards the field to see why he is late. I see him staggering towards the house like he is drunk. I wasn't alarmed, just wondering what was going on, why he was walking like that. He is finally a few feet from me and raises his forearms towards me. It took a few seconds to understand the blood all over his clothes and the fact that his arms no longer had hands on them. He had the presence of mind to have shoved both his hands into a bucket of axle grease we had by the machine shed. I ran in the house, grabbed the keys, and got him into the truck. I had been driving around the farm and back roads for a couple of years now. We set off to the nearest hospital, in a 20-year-old farm truck with a 3 on the tree. It is about 30 miles from where we lived. It just so happens there is a river with a drawbridge you have to cross to get into this town. They are in the process of building a higher bridge and getting rid of the drawbridge. So, as you can imagine, they have moved the original road, narrowed the lanes, and all the usual construction stuff. I get about a mile from the bridge, and traffic is at a dead stop. The bridge is up for an approaching barge. My dad is in the seat, moaning and groaning in and out of consciousness. So I am in our farm truck and pull off the road. I start driving through the construction area to get to the head of the line for bridge traffic. I'm honking like an idiot, waving my hand. The workers are yelling but moving aside. One guy pulls his truck in front of me and jumps out, cussing me out. I later found out he was the foreman. I had to stop when he blocked me because of Caterpillar tractors on each side. He comes to the door, yanks it open, ready to kill me. He saw my dad and yanked me from the seat and threw me in the bed of the truck and is screaming in his radio. This man is doing about a dozen things simultaneously. His workers are running ahead of the truck to where the line of cars are. He is on the radio telling the bridge operator to stop the barge and lower the bridge. Not in a minute, do it now. All this probably took him a minute or 2 minutes. To me, it was only a moment. He drives the truck up to the bridge. Here comes the original Karen. This lady is burned into my memory. She is driving a Cadillac, huge bleach beehive hairdo, cigarette in her claws, and the bitchiest face I have ever seen. The construction guys have been telling her to back up and move so they can get the truck onto the bridge. They explained injured man in the truck. I hear this bleached cow yell she doesn't care. The injured man can wait. She needs to get to her beauty appointment. The foreman tells her he will use a caterpillar to move her if she doesn't move willingly. She refuses, stating, "Do you know who my husband is?" At that point, our truck, about 2 inches from the side of her car, my dad holds up his hands. She apparently saw the blood, grease, and the fact that the hands aren't there. She faints. The foreman and his guys put her car in neutral and push it into a ditch. The foreman drives us to the hospital. He is also on his radio, telling whoever he is talking to that he wants the cops to arrest her and her car towed for putting someone's life in jeopardy. I don't know what all happened to her. I do know this foreman was a force of nature. So that is my story of dealing with the original Karen that spawned all the current Karens. Since I guess some will ask, my dad's sleeve got caught in the gears of the corn picker when he was working on it, without turning it off. Once his right hand went in, he tried to pull it out with his left hand. He ended up spending several months in hospital and many operations. In the end, he lost his right hand completely. Lost everything on the left but his thumb. He lived another 30 years after that. 3. I'm a 25-year-old woman. I've worked a lot of retail and fast food jobs, and I've got a couple of favorite things that have happened over time. Back in the summer of 2022, I used to work at the old Wub of Say as a sandwich artist. We were located near a beach, so you can imagine how swamped we were on the daily. Consistently, people would be in line out of the door, and well after closing time. I got some dang good tips though, especially when the richer folks visiting their vacation homes came in. There was a group of kids that were there for a church camp, and were in there regularly for lunch for the whole week. On this specific day, when I was alone on shift, they were getting their orders, and there was a good line of them. A frazzled-looking business lady came in and was at the end of the line. She wore a business skirt, hair done up, and heels, looking the very part of a secretary. I hadn't seen her the entire summer. She was new to me. Business lady didn't look the part of any Karen, just looked like a stressed-out woman. I absolutely get that, and I feel like what happened next was due to work stress and all, and possibly having a very short lunch break. But it still wasn't the greatest experience at the time. I do commend her for waiting until she got to the counter to start being all huffy and puffy, though. The kids sat and she said her sandwich order. It was a little snippy, but otherwise went well until we got to the vegetables. Now, those that have worked at the Wub of Say know that it is incredibly hard to hear people's orders across the counter. We have whirring machinery behind us and in front of us. The counters create a sound barrier that locks the whirring to where we stand as we work. Hence being the reason you get workers asking to repeat your order or repeating what you've said back to make sure we heard you right. It's not fun. We don't get a giggle out of asking you to repeat. Business lady ticked off what she wanted on her sandwich, and just as she got to what was apparently the most crucial part of her order, one of the kids got up and got ice cream from the ice machine. The noise of the machine going, plus the ones I was surrounded by, made it to where I completely could not hear her. I gave that cringy, forced polite retail smile and asked her to repeat the last ingredient. The woman huffed and repeated it. Guess what happened? The kid apparently didn't have enough ice cream and ran the machine again. I, again, couldn't hear her and asked her to repeat again. Guess what happened? Ice equals me not catching again. Did I ask once more? I barely even opened my mouth before this lady must have realized I still didn't catch it and absolutely went off. Her face turned so red she actually stomped her foot and threw her hands up in the air before shouting, "Pickles! Pickles! What are you, stupid? I said pickles! What part of that is so hard to understand? You get the damn green things and you shove it in between two slices of bread. It's pickles, not rocket science. It's fucking pickles. What else could I be saying to put on it?" Mine, there's usually like 10 ingredients plus to pick from, and she'd only said lettuce and onion so far. Pickles were surprisingly the least asked for ingredient where I worked. The entire shop was silent, and she kept stomping her foot and yelling about pickles. She beat her hands on the glass of the counters before she suddenly stopped, took a deep breath, threw her hands up again and said, "I don't need this right now," and walked out. Left the sandwich, left her purse, and possibly some dignity when one kid called out, "Bye, Karen." I didn't know she'd left her purse on the floor on the other side of the counter until a kid pointed it out. She came and picked it up when the next shift came in. While I get she probably had a lot going on, my friends and I refer to her as the Pickle Lady due to the way she kept separating pick-ulls to make a point. A year later, every time one of us asks for pickles, one of us doesn't fail to ask, "What are you, stupid?" 4. 17 years ago, I'd considered this guy my best friend. Very smart, intuitive, great MX rider, charming guy. Just one of those people you expect to watch excel in life without any doubts. Well, boy, was I wrong. Maybe I should have seen more of this coming, but I never imagined it'd get this bad. This guy is a pretty great example of someone born into upper middle class privilege that let life pass him by. I'll start off with what should have been the signs of this entitlement downward spiral in hindsight. To start, this guy's mom worked at the high school. She's what you'd call a hot mom and a social butterfly loved by the staff. She also babies the fuck out of her kid more than we knew. So this guy spends middle school into high school being absent for half the school year due to migraines and stomach issues, without any repercussion. It's just swept under the rug. Now, I know these are very real issues, and at the time we had all given him the benefit of the doubt. However, it's clear now that these are just the ideal intangible ailments for a lazy person. Not the craziest entitlement, but this sets the stage for this guy's life. So, he coasts through graduation due to favoritism from the staff, and his very ambiguous symptoms that can't be solved. He goes on to college, where his parents will gladly pay for him to go and support him. Manages to drop out the first semester because he has no discipline to go to class or study, because he's not getting his hand held like high school. He's now figuring out what he wants to really study, and I'm fully entrenched in college myself, so I don't think much of it. Fast forward a couple of years, and he's still working his high school job. Honestly, a good job that he could have made a career out of. However, he's frustrated for being passed up for promotions due to politics, which is really just them tolerating his flaky attendance enough not to fire him. He's got himself a new CBR 1000 street bike, arsenal of dirt bikes he's tracking and trail riding, still living with his parents, but at this point, it's not a huge red flag. Life is pretty good. It's about now this guy is going 4th year on a Honda CR250R and hits an MX double jump wrong. Literally blows his wrists apart on landing and becomes immediately incapacitated. He ends up spending 2 years not working due to recovery, where things are just how he likes them, no responsibility, and taking handouts from his parents while tinkering with motorcycles and recovering. This is when things got noticeably worse. His parents finally tell him he needs to get a job, which he drags his feet doing. Fast forward like 5 years. He's had 3 jobs, and each one is shorter and shorter lived. His parents finally got him out of their house, and he's living with a guy his age. However, since he's so inconsistently held a job, it comes to light when he's kicked out and giving me his victimhood story that he hadn't been paying rent for 3 years. In his words, "The guy just changed and was a different person towards the end." I'm like, no duh, bro. So now it's been a while. His parents take him back in. He proceeds to be jobless for no reason for like a year. After this, he goes into turbo mode with his shenanigans. His parents start pressuring him to work again at age 29. He then has this uncanny ability to take his sketchy as fuck resume and land 5 different jobs that all last less than a month. Rinse and repeat for a few years. He's now 32 with almost 0 credible job history, and he keeps landing these decent jobs. Unfortunately, every job he is stricken with illness and eventually fired, at which point he scampers back to his parents' house and tinkers around their place, which is seemingly the cure, because he's never sick when jobless. So finally, his parents have really had enough. At this point, he also kinda just treats his mom like Cartman from South Park treats his mom, but in real life. Not grateful for anything, and really shitty to them. He once went on a tirade about how his family never appreciates the things he does for them. So entitlement is stronger than ever. Bad attitude. Work ethic is in the negatives. He manages to land a great job, again. He's got like 1 paycheck under his belt, and his parents basically find him an apartment and set him up in it in order to get him out of their house. They do all of this for him because he's basically done 0 real-life adulting at this point, and he doesn't even know where to begin. So he's getting paid service technician wages. Should be noted every job he whines about how it's not the pay that he wanted. Well, I don't even know how he's getting hired. And immediately becomes so flaky they stick him in the parts truck to run parts instead because it's like the most inconsequential job they have. So now he's getting paid like $26 an hour to drive a truck all day at his own pace. Never works until 5. I tell him this sounds great, but he's mad because it's not what I want to be doing for work. Which is all basically code for I want to be at home playing with shit. Should have mentioned as well that all this tinkering and flitting around is due to his completely unnecessary Adderall prescription he's had since high school that he abuses. So he's popping Adderall and staying up until 4 a.m. retuning his guitar collection he doesn't even play. Shit like that. And wakes up feeling like hell and calls out of work. So once again, he's fired. In his words, "You shouldn't be able to fire someone for being sick." I tell him if it's really that bad, he needs to get on disability, which he brushes off because it's bull, which I already know. To be honest, I'm a little insulted at this point that he seems to think he's fooling me or anyone else. We're now in 2023. About 6 months go by and he's living in his $1,400 a month apartment. Money isn't an issue, so he's clearly back on an allowance from his parents. Finally finds something he considers good enough for him and is willing to get off his ass and try. This is like the perfect job for this guy. It's a one-man business that some 60-year-old guy runs. The guy has 1 foot out the door, so he's never up before 8, and he's never working after 3 p.m. Work week regularly gets cut short for whatever reason. Pretty ideal situation for someone who doesn't really want to work. So after 6 months of healthy living, this guy works 3 days and is now calling out once again for stomach issues and allergies. He calls me yesterday to complain about how he's ready for this week to be over, how he's mad that the doctor can't see him until Friday. He rescheduled a visit Wednesday, and he isn't sure what to do because he isn't sure if he should wait until Friday to see the doctor before going back. Essentially, framing this all as the doctor's fault. Then, I shit you not, he orders chicken fingers and ice cream from Sonic while on the phone whining to me. I'm sitting silently on the phone while he insults my intelligence, thinking he's got me or anyone else fooled. I tell him the plumber is knocking on our door and I have to go. That's yesterday. I give him another week. And there is just so much more to this guy that I couldn't even fit here. About a year ago, he called me throwing a fit that his rich grandma was going to gift an older vehicle to a needy family they knew. Apparently it worked, because they caved and gifted him this SUV, which he then flipped for cash, for example. For a long time, I just kind of accepted he had his bad habits and would get it together. But here I am, laying in bed, and I'm really not sure this guy is ever going to get it together. He's headed in the opposite direction. We're never going to have the nice adult cross-country motorcycle trips we talked about. We won't be going to each other's houses for the football party or barbecue on warm weekends. No fast street bikes or project cars. This guy'll be lucky if he's turned it around by 40 at this point. All from this toxic level of entitlement that keeps seemingly growing. It's wild. 5. I worked at Lowe's during the pandemic, and that was truly a challenge. I congratulate other retail workers who survived throughout the ordeal, and thank all healthcare workers and first responders, as life wouldn't be the same without you guys. Now let's get to the story. I'm a 25-year-old man, and I was 21 when this happened. At Lowe's, you must serve any and every customer with all their bull smart customer service, which during COVID made it even harder. The company was a shit show and quite frankly still is, because their upper management make any and all associates bow down to caring customers while refusing to help any employees. It was a Sunday night near the end of the summer. I was grateful I had a few hours until the end of shift, until Karen shows up and buys a large portable AC unit. She drives one of those small landscaper-type dump trucks. One of my buddies in our department was outside gathering carts, as if you're not helping a customer near the end of the night, you're outside doing carts. I'm sent outside to help him, which is good because there are no customers around our area, and all of our restock has been fulfilled, for now. As I'm helping him gather carts, we're just talking about life in general, good times, and how we'd like to get out of this job and into a good career. As we're gathering carts that were in the back of the parking lot to push up front, we see the middle-aged Karen just start yelling at us and says, "You too," and snaps at us. Then she starts waving at us like we couldn't already see her. She also whistles to get our attention as if we didn't hear her. She starts yelling at us why we weren't at the door helping her inside, despite another associate who already helped her with her purchase. For some context, the other associate who helped her couldn't deadlift the AC by herself as the Karen felt entitled. Other associate was a small, petite 19 or 20-year-old woman who, after a while, cried in the break room because Karen had thrown a fit because she couldn't carry it by herself and used a flat cart to take it outside. We get over to Karen to help her get this AC in. She wants it in this dump truck, no ratchet straps, tie-downs, or anything to secure it. She demands we pick this up and put it at neck level in this dump truck for her. As we're lifting, my buddy says he needs to set it down because he couldn't grip it, and we reconfigure the lift. At that point, Karen looked pissed off at us. We start lifting again, and Karen starts yelling at us that we're doing it wrong and will break her new unit despite using the cut-in handles. She then shoves me to the ground and says, "Fuck you, I'll do it myself." My buddy helps me up as Karen closes the tailgate and nearly backs up over me and drives off. As I get up with his help, our supervisor says he was standing in the doorway and saw it all. He informed me that the store cameras recorded it if I wanted to contact HR and tell them what occurred, though he cautioned I shouldn't pursue it because the store management would feel the store's reputation and sales would be at risk, since if I pressed charges, it would affect their revenue. He also explained they would find an excuse to fire me. He did say what I do in my off time he has no control over, suggesting I should pursue charges off the clock. I went home a few hours later to my house, as I didn't make enough to afford to live on my own. I tell my dad what happened, and he wasn't much help. My own fucking father told me I should shrug it off and let it go. He told me I should man up and not be a little bitch, even though my own body was violated by a middle-aged Karen, and I shouldn't pursue it as I don't have proof or anything else. I had to work from like 10 to 6 the next day, and I found out from an appliance associate that Karen came back around 8 a.m. or so and screamed at customer service that her new AC unit was broken and she wanted a full refund. The store manager gave her a refund and all, despite that she berated and harassed and assaulted a few associates. The store and company don't have your back, and they'll do anything to retain a customer. I'm glad I left there a few months later. Lowe's has progressively gotten worse, and I work in another sector. Also, the petite associate left shortly after that. She was in college besides working at Lowe's. I heard she now has a job doing something she likes and graduated. As for Karen, if you're out there, fuck you, and I hope the world gives you hell. Hey everybody, Hellfreezer here, and thank you very much for listening to Idiots in the Wild, episode 139. And thank you very much to everybody who allowed me to use their stories in this video. Before you go, please do poke the like button. Thank you kindly. If you'd like to get the videos a little bit early, then you can support me through my Patreon, which is linked in the description. You can support me there for as little as $1 or more if you'd like a month. You'll also find a link to the Hellfreezer Teespring store where you can buy Hellfreezer merchandise in the description. And you can also make donations during streams or videos like this one. And while you don't have to, I do appreciate it, and it helps me out. Thank you kindly to everyone who already has. Alright, let's see. No other business today, so let's move right along to Hellfreezer's question of the day. And today's question is: what is your favorite, or not necessarily favorite, but most frequently used GIF on the internet? Yeah, I said GIF, come at me. Mine, after doing a bit of research on my Discord server, is that one of Samuel L. Jackson kind of leaning in and staring at people. Apparently, Apparently I have need to use that one a lot. I don't know why. My Discord is actually generally nice people. The buttheads don't stay long. They find it's not a good environment for them. But let me know what you think in a comment below, and I'll have a look. I'll try and look up some of yours if I remember. And with that, I'm going to head off for now. So until next time, thank you very much for listening, and take very good care of yourselves.